Carl, what have you done?
Think anyone will notice?
Mr. Carl Jackson, right?
Carl Jackson was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. After the sudden death of his mother at the age of 11, he moved between LA and Orlando, Florida, trying to find his way in life.
So I'm clearly a Carl Jackson fan.
Carl Jackson.
Carl Jackson.
Carl Jackson.
Although he was introduced to hard work, faith, and family values, as a struggling teen, he wandered down the path of least resistance, finding himself jailed twice. By the grace of God, he attended an evangelical church and found that there was a better way and accepted Jesus Christ as his Savior.
There's just no fake stuff about Carl Jackson.
Now, on the Salem Podcast Network, Carl has launched on a journey to help people of all races and backgrounds to discover facts of America's true past, as well as realize the benefits of utilizing their God-given gifts and talents, which far outweigh any benefit from a government subsidy or program.
It's dangerous out here. Let's roll, Carl.
Get going fast!
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I'm glad you're here. Listen, today I want to go into what we see happening. Let me put it this way. What we see happening with Ukraine and Russia invading Ukraine, although they had separatist groups that were already in eastern Ukraine. The invasion is taking place, but this could have all been avoided. And we've talked about this before. This could have been avoided if Biden had not shut down the Keystone XL Pipeline. We had no reason to be involved in what we see happening before our eyes in Ukraine and Russia, and we would have simply kept the XL Pipeline going if he wouldn't have given Putin permission to reopen the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, we know, thank God, that Germany has canceled licensing or permitting, however they phrase it out there, and that's going to slow Putin down, and everyone is imposing some sanctions, so that's going to be a little painful for Putin, but I don't know if it's going to stop Putin. I don't believe it will. I believe they've acted too late. But what I want to do is go back to Biden killing the XL pipeline. I want to take you back to that day. Remember, this is extremely important. If Biden hadn't killed the XL pipeline, I don't believe there would be this, what Biden would call a minor incursion, but what Ukrainians would call an invasion happening in the eastern part of their country. So let's go back. On day one, Joe Biden killed the Keystone XL Pipeline, the permit. That was Executive Order 13990. Now, I want you to understand the impact. You can see the impact that it's had. Go fill up your car. Go look at the prices of food and any consumer product. Look at how much they have skyrocketed under the Biden administration. All of this is a result of Biden killing the XL pipeline. And I believe he's hiking up energy prices intentionally. He wants to do this intentionally. He made promises to the climate change activist wackos, and he's following through on it. But he shut down the XL pipeline on day one, Executive Order 13990. Now, I want you to understand, this had boosted the U.S. GDP by $3 billion. The XL pipeline did. It carried 830,000 barrels of oil daily from Canada to the U.S. That's tons of oil, folks. That's going to make a difference. He can go into the strategic reserves all that he wants to. That's a bad idea. We need to have that intact, in place, in case of an emergency. We don't need to be drawing from the strategic reserve, and it's not going to make a bit of difference. It really isn't, considering that we're losing 830 barrels a day just by shutting down the Keystone Pipeline. And again, this created 26,000 jobs. So 26,000 jobs across or in the area, across the country, are associated, let's say, with the XL pipeline. 26,000 jobs, 26,000 homes and families, right? And Lord knows how many other businesses were created or businesses that flourished as a result of employees, contractors, whatever, working along the Keystone XL Pipeline. 26,000 jobs, but I mean, you can broaden that exponentially. They all got to go out to eat. They all got to go, grocery shopping. They have to go to a mechanic. They have to go to a barber. So think of all of the other jobs that they affected or Biden affected beyond just the jobs of the Keystone XL Pipeline workers. So 26,000 jobs directly or indirectly. 11,000 jobs were instantly lost. Instantly lost. 11,000 jobs in one day, in one stroke of a pen, that were instantly lost as a result of Biden shutting down the Keystone XL Pipeline on day one. And this is the reason why we shouldn't have to even talk about Russia and Ukraine today. We embolden Vladimir Putin and we weaken the United States of America, and Biden did so, and the Democrats did so intentionally. These are their policies. Every time you fill up at the pump and you're paying more, I want you to remember that Biden and the Democrat Party did this to you. 11,000 jobs instantly lost. And guys, these are good paying jobs. I speak from experience, not myself, but I have a family member that had a job as a result of this pipeline being open. And this job was a very good paying job, a six-figure job. This particular person had struggled financially, had started another small business, but was still struggling, trying to get it off the ground. This opportunity came along because this person wanted to be able, or this man wanted to be able to provide for his family. He was having a rough time. He gets this job opportunity. He's away from his family, honestly, for months at a time, but he's able to provide like he hadn't been able to in some time, and provide a good living for his family. That ended. Like I think he had the job for a couple of years or so, if I recall correctly, and that ended day one of Biden's administration. So this guy went from being able to, during that period of time, save enough money to put a down payment on a home, purchase his first home. He and his wife purchased their first home, to losing a job overnight. Thank God he had started building a side business that he did when he would come back into town. But the vast majority of workers hadn't been thinking like that. They hadn't been thinking like that. It's insane. And then John Kerry, the haughty John Kerry, the Grey Poupon, John Kerry, the man that marries rich women so that I can live a life of luxury, John Kerry, he tried to offer comfort to the situation. He was like, listen, these guys can go to work to make solar panels. You mean the solar panels that are created, the vast majority of them created by China? You mean those solar panels, you guys are worried about the environment? You're talking about the vast majority of solar panels that are made in China who could give a damn about air pollution? They should get some of those jobs, John Kerry. This is why these people are fakes, not to mention the fact that they, ride in all these private jets and so on. Just complete and utter frauds. They just invest in businesses. They want to kill fossil fuel. They'll invest in green energy so that they'll become even wealthier, and they'll make you dependent. That's what they want. They don't want energy independence because they don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to be independent. A car gives us freedom. I remember when I was, I grew up poor. The idea of me getting a car from my parents was a joke. It was never going to happen. It just never was going to happen. We had to go out and work. I saw my brother do it. I saw an older brother of mine do it. I saw my sister, who's older than me. She went out and did it. They had to go out and work, or if someone gave them a car. One time, I think my aunt gave my sister a car. She had to pay X amount, but she worked it out with my aunt. It was a Ford Pinto. Ford Pinto. Remember those? But it was a clean one. Now, if she would have got hit, she probably would have been on fire. So thank God she never did. But it was very nice, clean. My aunt kept it up really, really well. But I knew that I wasn't going to be gifted or given a car. It just wasn't going to happen. But I wanted that independence. I would ride the bus sometimes to go to work in L.A. and stuff like that. Sometimes I feel somewhat uncomfortable. Some of the areas that I was in until I got to work, it was in, a nice place or what have you, a nicer place in Los Angeles. So I would be happy once I got there. But I wanted that independence. So I worked my butt off. I saved some money, and I think, I don't know, I can't even remember, but I bought like a dummy. I wouldn't recommend this, but I bought a brand new Chevy S10 at the time for myself. It was my dream. I worked my butt off for a year, went and put down the down payment, so on, etc. Stick shift. Didn't even know how to drive stick shift. But I was so happy because I had that independence. So I literally bought the truck. My sister had to come to the lot and take it off the lot for me because I didn't know how to drive stick shift. And even though my dad drove stick shift, for whatever reason, I didn't ask, he didn't learn, but I kind of watched him, so I thought I knew what I was doing. Buy this truck, this stick shift. She comes, she drives it off the lot. She teaches me a little bit to drive stick shift, and then she's got to go somewhere. So literally, I'm in Long Beach with my new Chevy S10 pickup truck that I absolutely love, and I'm trying to learn how to drive stick shift so I can drive it home. It's crazy. I figured it out. I stopped at a lot of lights. I jerked at a lot of lights. I sweated a lot because there was one point where I was driving through Signal Hill. For those of you that don't know, it has a lot of hills in this part of more of an exclusive part in Long Beach or near Long Beach or whatever. And oh my God, it took me. I literally sat through 3 or 4 red lights, cars honking, and I was sweating like a pig, just nervous. And I finally got it. And once I finally got it, I kind of got the hang of it. There were no more hills, so I kind of navigated, got home, practiced a little bit. It was a crazy time, but it gave me freedom. And that was just so cool. And the left wants to take that away. They want to make sure that you're on Metro rails. Speaking of Metro rails, the one in California. I can remember when it was first built. And my brother and sister-in-law lived in Moreno Valley at the time. I was in Long Beach at the time, or Paramount, I can't remember which, but in that area, Compton, Paramount, Long Beach area. And so I think my dad dropped me off at the little station once they were built up, once it got started. And there were all of these people on the very first day. It was so packed. Gabe, I can tell you, it was like going to an amusement park. Like, picture Sunrail, if you will. Their platforms, but completely full, lines completely full, people waiting to ride it. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. This is insane. So I rode it, and it was completely packed. And, that was cool. That was the first time. I went to ride it. I can't remember exactly how long later, but it wasn't long later. Maybe a couple of months, maybe several months. I was one, if I recall correctly, of 6 or 7 people on the entire train. That entire boondoggle, billions of dollars, all of these people excited at first, and nobody rode it in the end. Why? Because people love their independence. If you have the choice of driving in your own car or being stuck on some type of metro rail with a bunch of strangers, some cussing or stink, or, maybe they're okay. Who knows? You don't want to take the chance. You want to be in your own car. You want to be in your own vehicle. That's what the left wants to do. They just want to take away independence. That's their goal with all of this stuff. All of this stuff is intentional, but Biden killed the XL pipeline, and it is the reason why we even have to talk about Russia and Ukraine today. And then Trump greenlit the project in 2017 after Obama had delayed it for years. And what I'm talking about, when he greenlit the project, it was the Keystone XL Pipeline. Obama had been sitting on it, but he was, he's got the lefties in his parties. The Democrat Party are full of these radicals. They always try to claim that the right are full of radicals. And I'm like, what's radical about loving Judeo-Christian values? What's radical about liking the Constitution? What's radical about capitalism and wanting to work and get ahead? Nothing radical about it, but they call us radical, and the media buys into it, spreads the lie. It's insane. But the left are radical. We're not radical. But Trump got it started 2017, kicked that thing up. And I mean, we were making money. We were becoming energy independent. We became energy independent. And by the way, the pipeline received a favorable environmental review from the U.S. State Department. I went and just did some quick research here and pulled this up. And let me just share this with you. This is back from The Hill, not exactly a conservative rag, if you will, but this is back in July of 2019. And it says the title of the column is "The EPA Hails Trump's Work on Reducing Air Pollution." Carl, do you mean to say we were fighting the environment by trying to shut down things like the Keystone XL Pipeline? We were trying to stop drilling for oil, fracking, natural gas, going after all of these, the fossil fuels. And Trump comes in. He opens up the Keystone XL Pipeline, and he gets rave reviews from the EPA. Oh, yes. What does that tell you? Hat tip The Hill. The Environmental Protection Agency pointed to a new study released Wednesday. And again, this was almost 3 years back now, released Wednesday to emphasize what it characterized as the Trump administration's achievements in decreasing air pollution. The report showed that emissions from all 6 measured criteria air pollutants decreased between 2016 and 2018, the years Trump has been in office. Now, the lefties were saying, that's because of all the work we did to kill your freedom with the man-made climate change hoax for 40 years. It's because of our work. Well, if that's true and Trump turned the spigot back on for oil, wouldn't we have seen an increase in air pollution? See, the left doesn't want you to have common sense. It hailed this, going back to the article, it hailed this as part of decades-long trend of falling pollution rates that began in 1970. When the Clean Air Act was implemented, the results of the annual National Air Quality Report showed that the emissions of 6 key pollutants dropped by 74% in that time period. The pollutants measured do not include carbon dioxide or methane, known greenhouse gases. Statement from the EPA added that the U.S. economy had grown 275% since 1970. The U.S. is a global leader in clean air progress, and we've proven that we can protect the environment while growing our economy, the EPA Administrator Andrew Wheeler said at the time. So the air became cleaner under Trump because we were following all these other guidelines. So we were doing it all. Right? A buffet style approach. Okay, if you want an electric vehicle, by the way, we shouldn't have subsidies for electrical vehicles. They don't make the air cleaner. I know once you get them and you drive them, okay, that's fine. I get it. It's just virtue signaling with electrical vehicles because what are you going to do with the batteries? You're going to destroy the environment. And by the way, in the production of these electrical vehicles, you are doing more damage to the environment than a car with a combustible engine does on average in its entire lifespan, whether 5, 6, 7 years, whatever, before someone trades it in, gets a new car, whatever. So you're doing more damage to the environment during the production of that electrical vehicle. Yes, you're running clean, if you will, during that period of time that you own that electrical vehicle, but then you have to use coal. What is coal? Oh my God. It's a total fraud. Electrical cars are, if you like them, you like them. That's fine. I don't care if you like them, but they shouldn't be subsidized. But the people that get electrical cars because they want to feel morally superior, you're not. You're doing more damage to the environment. Not to mention that you're helping China, who builds batteries. And in the Congo, they use child labor to extract some of the materials needed in those batteries. From what I understand, just to be fair, Tesla and other organizations have backed away from that. And I love Elon Musk. I'm not trying to knock him, but Nissan Leaf, all these other different cars, Toyota Prius, that use these electrical batteries, you're not saving the environment. So just to be fair, you're not. All right. But again, we would not be having to worry about the Ukraine and Russia or Russia invading Ukraine had Biden just stuck to Trump's policies. when it came to the XL pipeline and not shut that down. But Biden, again, made a promise to his climate activists. But here's the problem. Oil is the lifeblood of the economy, and we're seeing that. That's what we're seeing. That's what you're feeling. That's what you're experiencing. That's what we're witnessing. Let me go to this other article because I want to share with you some of the products that are made from oil and natural gas. Just in everyday life that you might not think about. This idea, this concept that we're going to get away from natural gas, that we're going to get away from fossil fuels, it's just silly. And by the way, both Russia and China have basically said, well, we're going to do more mining for coal and so on, et cetera. They're going to ramp it up. We dummies in the West, it's amazing to me. We try to virtue signal, but you have John Kerry, you have Biden, you have the Democratic Party. They're being sympathetic to Russia. They're being sympathetic to China. They kiss Xi Jinping's booty as much as they possibly can. And then they rail about climate change, man-made global warming. And then they go kiss up to the guy, or kiss up to the country, kiss up to the dictator whose country pollutes the most in the entire world. They're fake. They're phonies. They're just virtue signaling. And they're investing in these green energy companies, right? So they can get wealthier where they crush you. But think about this. Adhesive, sticky stuff. Air mattresses, ammonia, antifreeze, antihistamines. For those of you that suffer with allergy problems, antiseptics, artificial limbs. Maybe you had a limb amputated. Artificial turf, asphalt, aspirin, awnings, backpacks, balloons, ballpoint pens, bandages, beach umbrellas, boats, cameras, candles and gum. Your iPhones, all right? Candles, car battery cases, car enamel, cassettes are no longer here, caulking, CDs, cell phones, clothes, clothesline, clothing, coffee makers, cold cream, combs, computer keyboards. I'm going down the line. Let me skip somewhere. Water pipes, vitamin capsules, vinyl flooring, vaporizers, upholstery, like you have in your car, even Tesla uses, tennis rackets, tents, tires. Don't you need tires? Toolboxes, tool racks, toothbrushes, toothpaste, permanent press, petroleum jelly, pharmaceuticals, pillow filling, plastic toys, plywood adhesive, purses. For all of you ladies that like purses. All right, it's insane. Life jackets, lightweight aircraft, lipstick, loudspeakers, lubricants, luggage, model cars, mops, motorcycle helmets, movie film, nail polish, nylon, oil filters, faucet washers, eyeglasses, epoxy paint, enamel, electrical tape, electrical blankets, drinking cups, dog collars, dishwashing liquid, deodorant, detergent, dice, you name it. Guys, I can go on. Footballs, glue, glycerin, golf bags, golf balls, guitar strings, hair coloring, hair curlers. So I hate to tell you, if you're trying to virtue signal and pretend like you're not harming the environment, unless you're walking around butt naked and never showering, never brushing your teeth, never combing your hair, I got bad news for you. Yeah, this is all a scam. The bottom line is the Biden administration is doing this on purpose. Hat tip. The Federalist, Biden administration pumps up gas prices while trying to scapegoat everything from lockdowns to Russia. So we're just over a year into the Biden disaster, and the gas prices on average are up $1 higher than any point of Trump's administration. We've reached a 7-year high on gas prices, and it's not a coincidence. These people are doing this stuff on purpose. Biden and the Democratic policies are intentionally suppressing production in the name of climate change while imposing these new regulations on all of us. And here's what happened last weekend. I bet you didn't hear about this because this was a what you call a news dump that the Biden administration did not on late on a Friday, which is typically when a political, if you will, news dump is given so that the elites in Washington don't want anyone to really talk about it, hear about it, know about what's going on. The Biden administration did a news dump on a Saturday. So here's what happened last week. The Biden Justice Department quietly sought again to do basically they requested in a federal court to stay a decision on the social cost of carbon. This is called SEC rules. And the estimates calculated to determine, or what it is are the estimates calculated to determine potential cost-benefit analysis of environmental regulations that were dropped from $51 per ton of carbon dioxide under the Biden administration. This included what they call global damage from emissions to what Trump dropped it to. So Obama had it at $51 per ton of carbon dioxide. Trump took it down to $7, and that was exclusive to the domestic damage. And then Joe Biden reversed that figure and took it back up to $51 again, while his Interior Department designed its own guideline on carbon emissions rules. Basically, excuse me. Trying to get rid of this cough. I apologize. But there was a restraining order or an injunction granted to 10 GOP-led states. The column says that on Saturday, the administration officials demanded that the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana suspend a preliminary injunction against the SEC rules after a challenge from a coalition of 10 Republican-led states. Earlier in the month, Judge James D. Kane Jr. blew back the curtain on Biden's use of the administrative state to artificially increase the cost estimates, and I quote, to artificially, quote, increase the cost estimates, unquote, of oil and gas drilling, and granted the Republican injunction. Excuse me. The DOJ appealed as a result of oil and gas projects in the U.S. will stop while the regulators wait on confirmation of how to proceed using Trump-era estimates for the social cost of carbon or Obama's until new rules are handed down. So they opted to go with Obama. So it's $51 punishment, if you will, against us. So the higher cost will raise oil and gas prices by justifying more limits on federal leasing. Federal leasing being what the federal government would do is lease federal lands so that companies could drill, frack, so on, etc., for oil and natural gas. All of that has come to a pause, necessarily and intentionally, purposefully skyrocketing your fuel costs. All right? That's what's happening. The Biden Interior Department has been aggressive in trying to destroy the oil and gas industry. So Democrats are just being mean when it comes to oil and gas producers. You have to understand that all of this stuff is intentional. Biden wants to blame the skyrocketing gas prices on what's happening in Russia and Ukraine. He wants to get you distracted. When he gave the press conference the other day, basically he said all of we Americans, we need to sacrifice, as if we're not already sacrificing with higher gas prices, as if we're not already sacrificing with higher inflation, open borders, more crime, a supply chain shortage. So we're doing a lot of sacrificing, but Joe Biden is asking you to do more sacrificing in the name of freedom. The guy is a complete jerk. I hate to say this in regards to the presidency or in regards to the president of the United States, but the guy is a jerk. He is a mean man. He is a despicable man. He was before he became senile, and he's even more so now. He's a despicable human being. I don't say that lightly. He's doing this to be mean. He's doing this because they have a mission to accomplish, and I gave you the results of what happened to the air, the clean air. While Trump still instituted the Clean Air Act, we made money, we continued to drill, and he followed guidelines where the air became even cleaner during his presidency. So this is all a joke. You're being scammed. It's as simple as that. If you don't want to go to war unnecessarily, so we need to drill here. We need to become energy independent again. Don't buy into this narrative that you're killing the climate. The world is dying as a result of you. I just told you there's nothing that is made. There's absolutely nothing you can do as a human being. Get over your high moral horse, whatever, your super righteousness, there's nothing you can do as a human being to save the environment. If you want to feel better about yourself and do a little less damage, I mean, obviously we do have some impact, right? I'd be lying if we didn't say, if I said otherwise, but our impact on the environment is baked in. God knew what was going to happen when he created it. Our impact on the environment is so infinitesimal. It's almost not worth mentioning, but the left will fight for it anyway. Now, you talk about China. If we were all doing what China was doing, maybe we have a bigger impact. They're a total disaster. But it's obvious that the left doesn't care what China is doing because they continue to kiss their butts and they want to get solar panels made there. And there's no doubt if you find out what solar panels are made by and how they produce them, they're not doing anything to clean the environment. This is all a fraud. We would not be in Ukraine were it not for, or we wouldn't be talking about Russia invading Ukraine if Biden hadn't killed the XL pipeline. So I just wanted to take you back to that. I wanted to break down I wanted to break down all of this. Show was a deep dive. I didn't do my deep dive thing, Gabe, but the entire show was a deep dive. It really was. So I took you back to XL Pipeline. I told you about the Clean Air Act and how the environment and our air quality actually improved under Trump. And then I took you to this court filing where the Biden administration literally, and they tried to do it in a dump. They tried to do it in a news dump. But they literally have sought and requested in the federal court to stay the decision on what they call the social cost of carbon, SCC. And again, the estimates calculated were to determine the potential cost-benefit analysis of the environmental regulations, and they were dropped from $51 to $7 under Trump. Biden hiked them up again. All of this unnecessarily is going to, or actually necessarily, are going to cause our energy prices to rise. They're doing this on purpose, guys. They are doing this on purpose. They don't want you energy independent, or they don't want the U.S. energy independent, and they don't want you as an individual independent. Please, 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 I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click the bell so you get notifications. Rumble, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. Please help spread the message of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Carl Jackson Show. If you look up Carl Jackson Show podcast, I'll pop up quicker because there's a couple other Carl Jacksons out there. Also, my Facebook, Carl Jackson Radio, Twitter, and Parler at Carl Jackson Show, Instagram, The Carl Jackson Show, and my website, carljacksonshow.com. I appreciate all of you guys tuning in. And until next time, don't grow weary doing good, and God bless you.